Hello there, and welcome back to the Disconnected. I am here with my sister Courtney back again, and that's because a new Scream film has dropped in early March, and we finally got time to sit down together to discuss it. We've shared a few words over text, but not a whole lot. So we're going to go deep into Scream 6, and there will be plenty of spoilers. So fair warning on that now. If you haven't seen it yet, I'm not going to be offended. Don't watch this video. We'll talk later. We're going to talk about our history with the franchise, and then we're going to go through a ranking of the entire franchise. So first, obviously, you're wearing a Scream shirt. Why don't you explain your love for the franchise and your history with it? Because I don't think we have the same history with it, even though we grew up in the same house.
I honestly don't remember the first time that I saw it. Um, I do remember watching it. It was just like a fun comfort kind of movie, I guess. I know I've only watched it like a couple of times growing up. And I don't remember how old I was or when the first time I watched it was. I just remember all of a sudden knowing that I love this franchise. So that's my history with it. Nothing crazy.
So why nowadays is it so important to you?
I really like the storyline that they follow. I think it's really fun, and I think that now, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, but how the new like sequel or trilogy, I guess, is kind of following the original trilogy.
Yeah.
So I think that's really cool and really special. I'm also a big fan of Wes Craven, so that's another reason. Yeah.
I also don't remember the first time I saw it, but it had to have been within a year or 2 of the first one coming out. I was still far too young to see it in theaters or anything like that, but I was likely around 10 or 11 years old at most when I saw the first one for the first time, and then the house that we grew up in, they were mostly about horror. They weren't as deep into it as you and I are now, but they were supportive of the genre and
Hmm.
fine with it. So, yeah, I probably saw it very young and probably a little younger than maybe I should have, considering what I hadn't seen yet, but it's all right. Um, I like this franchise a hell of a lot because of a handful of reasons. Um, First and probably the foremost for me is I think this is easily the most consistent horror franchise in terms of quality. I don't think any of these films are bad. Even the worst one, which to me there is a clear worst one, and even that one is
Which one is
still
it?
we'll get to that in a minute. It's still much better than most franchise films in any of the horror franchises. I mean, I really like Halloween. I hate probably half of the franchises and or not half of the franchises. I hate probably half of the sequels and think that they shouldn't even exist.
Right?
So,
Because isn't there like nine of those?
well, I mean, if you want to get down to it, there's legitimately like 14 of them now because we've got the original 8 or 9 and then the new
Oh,
trilogy
and then the new trilogy. Yeah.
and Rob Zombie's remake and the sequel.
My gosh, that's a lot. Yeah.
It is too much.
Hmm. And
So,
I also feel like Scream took a good pace with their movies as well until we skipped from like the third one to the fourth one, which was too long. But like I feel like the first trilogy, the first three, it was a really good pace of releasing the movies.
yeah, I mean, the second one came out very quick, which was kind of surprising, but the second one held up a lot of the same quality, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. And
Mhm.
then the third one, they had, I think it's a good 3 years break, 4 years break before the third one. But
Mhm.
yeah, I think they took their time, and I'm glad. And yeah, so most easily most consistent. I think the acting is the highest quality than any of the other franchises for sure. I am a big fan of like mysteries, and so this combines my love of slashers with like genuinely that Scooby-Doo feeling. And
Mhm.
a couple of these maybe lean into that a little too much. Like part three is very Scooby Doo in
Yeah.
kind of a negative way. So I love that aspect. I also love the the intricacies of a complex plot that makes sense. Like the first Saw movie, I adore that movie because the movie itself is a giant puzzle to solve, and Scream almost feels like that when everything intertwines. The reveal at the end of Scream 2, when you find out who the first killer is and how they're related to Scream 1 and all of that, it just feels so much more like authentic feeling and so much more meaningful compared to some of the other BS, like this killer rose from the grave and he's back to
Right.
slash his way into the cabinet and whatever.
Right.
Yeah, I love Scream, and again, you brought up Wes Craven. He's a master, and
Mhm.
how many other franchises can say that the same director directed the first 4 of the franchise?
Mhm.
Not very many. I think really the only ones that have had this sort of consistency with the crew would be Child's Play. Child's
Mm.
Play has had a lot of the same people throughout the entire run, and now into a TV series, which Scream also had. I've
Mhm.
never watched the TV series. Did you?
I haven't watched it either, no. It's in my, like, watch list on Netflix, I know that, though.
Yeah, I need to. I don't know if it's good.
I don't
I don't
either.
know that I've heard anybody really talk about it.
I haven't either, and it's been out for, like, 2 years, I think.
Yeah, it's been out for a while. All right, so Scream 6 just came out in early March. Why don't you break down what happens in the film? And again, full spoilers. You don't need to hold anything back. As you're going through, I'll hype up certain points, but we can hit the big spots, and I'm sure that there's gonna be some things that I'll throw in that you'll forget.
Absolutely. Um, so this movie, am I just going through the whole thing you said?
Do it, yeah.
Fuck yeah, okay. I've seen it twice already, by the way, you didn't ask
Oh,
me that.
damn.
I've seen
Nice.
it twice, saw it the night, like, before it came out, whatever that is.
Why do we call Friday night opening night when everything starts on Thursday now?
Everything comes out on Thursday now, yeah, so I went so I saw it Thursday night, the night before opening night, um, that it came out. I was in Seattle, went and saw it in Seattle, and then 5 days later, I had not seen it with Nate yet, so I took Nate to go see it. The very first time I watched it, it was so fun. I was literally, like, gasping and, like, had my hand over my mouth, like, the entire time, like, it was just so much fun. It was so funny. I love how they're still keeping, like, the silliness of the movie and, like, the playfulness as well as, like, the, like, spooky, like, thriller part, I guess. And the oh my gosh, okay, I'm starting to get too excited. Okay. Okay, do we wanna talk about, like, what it is now?
Yeah, let's go beat by beat,
Okay,
and let's talk
okay.
about the opening, and we can just give commentary about the whole thing.
Oh my gosh, the opening! I thought it was so fun. Okay, so the opening, when I don't know if they said their names in the beginning, but Samara Weaving, is that
Yep.
right?
Yes.
Um, when she gets murdered in the beginning, she's, like, at a bar meeting, like, a Tinder date. We figure out it's obviously not the Tinder date, and it's Ghostface, obviously. So he goes and he kills her, and then he literally, like, takes off his mask, and I was like, "Why the fuck are we getting this in the beginning of the movie?" And then I was
They've
like, "There's
never
no
done that
way.
before.
They've never done that before." And that was so neat. So that was the very first time that I was like, "What?" Like, they've literally never done that before. And so that even just from that was so exciting. And then you see him walking home, and you see him and another guy, like, literally, like, having a conversation about, like, being Ghostface and why they like it, and
Over the phone.
yeah, over the phone, yes, and, like, the other guy is using the Ghostface voice, and he's like, "I'm just practicing, man, like, just practicing what we're doing, blah." Oh my gosh, there's so much, it's so exciting, so then they keep talking or whatever, and he ends up Ghostface is like, "Kapow!" And then the roommate who's working with him is in the fridge cut up into 1,000 pieces. So we found out that he's not Ghostface, they were just dummies.
So basically, what you find out is the two roommates were planning on being Ghostface killers together, and one of them was killed prior to this conversation and hidden in their fridge. This one that just went and killed, which we find out was one of their professors.
Mhm.
He just killed the professor in an alley. He comes home and he plays a game of hot and cold to find his roommate's body. And then as he finds the body, he gets killed as well. And this opening was pretty damn crazy.
It
First
was
off,
good.
Samara came on the screen, and I went, "Oh, god damn it, she's gonna die immediately," because I love Samara Weaving, and then, of course,
Yeah,
she's
she's
in it for, like,
amazing.
2.8 minutes.
Amazing when she's in it, though, you know?
Yeah.
She did a great job.
She did. Yeah, the reveal of somebody being Ghostface has never happened before, so that was crazy.
I panicked. I literally, like, "What?" And then
Uh,
I processed, and I was like,
the other
"Hold on."
thing that really got to me is when they open that fridge and you see the body, not that necessarily it was a body, the brutality of the way they showed the body. It was sliced and diced. It was in like 18 different pieces on a couple shelves in the fridge. They immediately showed that they were not going to hold anything back in this movie.
Mhm.
Loved
And it
it.
was exciting. It was an exciting way to be like, "Okay, obviously that wasn't the real Ghostface,
Right.
obviously." So, yeah, that opening scene, I loved how different it was too because, like, I just feel like I mean, they're not all the same, obviously, but I just feel like this one was so different and so exciting that it just, like, set up for the rest of the movie really well.
I agree. Yeah. It was a great setup, really nice intro into the title screen reveal. Very much set the tone for the film very well.
Mhm.
All right, what happened after that opening that you want to go through?
Oh, well, we didn't even I guess maybe that's not super important. When the first Ghostface is walking back and
He
he
walks by
runs
Jenna Ortega.
into
Yeah.
yeah, who Sam and Tara, okay, so she's Tara. Um, yeah, they, like, walk by each other and they, like, know each other, and it was, like, their plan to, like, kill Sam and Tara. Um, anyways, so now we know that they have, like, a weird little connection, which makes sense later on in the movie. Um, but so after that happens, it shows, Tara going to a frat party, her sister coming home. Oh my gosh, so much. Her sister coming home, getting upset. You get to meet the new roommate, um, who also I love that actress. Um,
One that played Quinn.
yes, I love her. I think she's so cute. I love her and everything that she's in. Um, but yeah, you get to meet this new roommate that they've been living with since they moved to New York. Also, too, I don't think we mentioned that this is in New York, but I think everyone knows that.
Yes, and I was honestly surprised how good that worked.
Mhm,
I was worried about how much it could have not been great, and it actually worked
mhm,
pretty damn well.
mhm.
And then on top of
It's
that,
pretty
it's
good.
also set with Sam and Tara attending college, just like Scream 2 was with the original
Yes.
cast attending college.
Mhm. So this already follows that, like ah, okay.
Uh, I did want to throw out too, since we already are talking about Sam and Tara, Jenna Ortega, who plays Tara, and Melissa Barrera, who plays Sam. I don't know what it is. Like, obviously, everybody knows Jenna Ortega is great now, but when Scream 5 came out, she was still sort of like when they filmed it, she was still on that rise to stardom and wasn't really sure of herself, in my opinion, in Scream 5. They both like took massive acting classes or something in between these two. They put in star making performances in this one compared to part 5, I think.
Mhm. Sam, or her name's Melissa in real life, you
Yeah.
said? Incredible. Phenomenal. Like and the thing about this was too is that I didn't miss Sydney in this. Like, I
No,
didn't
not at all.
and it's like you didn't and that was something that I feel like a lot of the, like, fans of the franchise were nervous about, was the first movie without Sydney, because that is crazy. But it didn't feel like something was missing without her, and they mentioned her once and it was fine, but, like, it didn't there was nothing missing. Oh, yeah.
That is one of my criticisms of part 5 as well. I don't think Sydney needed to be in part 5. Um, we'll get into that in just a minute. To get to, I think the next important talking point is we get the roommate of Tara, who is Quinn, finds out that this other classmate has been killed, and they found his roommate in the same house, and blah blah blah. Then Quinn's roommate is I just said Tara, but it's actually Sam. Quinn tells the roommate Sam that, hey, this is happening. 2 people have been killed. And Sam, being the like realist that she is, says, we're not even going to stay around and play this. We need to get out of here. And she tries to find her sister, Tara, but she's now at that frat party where it's dangerous. So
Mhm.
Sam makes her way to the frat party to retrieve her sister. And then the main plot point of this unfolds is that the internet and some people at the school are under the impression that Sam is actually the one that did some of the killing in part 5, and they're treating her like she is a virus that they can't be around. She's nuts. And there's lots of things that come from that plot line that leads to all of Scream 6, basically. But
Yeah.
what's important here is that establishes our core 4, which they actually refer to them as the 4 core people from part 5 that are now in part 6. But we get somebody that comes back all the way from Scream 4. Who came back in this one?
Kirby came back. I feel like, real quick though, there is something we need to touch on because I think it's a big part of the plot line is when Sam goes to therapy for the first time
Yep.
and she's talking about how like everything that happened to them, and then she kind of talked about how when she was killing
I don't remember his name. Her
Ghostface,
her her boyfriend
her
from part
boyfriend,
5.
yeah, Ghostface from part 5. Spoiler, sorry. Um, gosh, his name is a really important part.
I'll get it for you in just a second.
Anyways, okay. So she talked about when she was killing him, because she killed him in part 5, that it felt
Richie Kirsch.
Richie Kirsch. So when she was killing Richie, she was talking about how it felt really good and it felt right. And like it sets her up to like feel like she likes murdering people and like we should be scared of her in the future.
And that's important because she is Billy Loomis's daughter.
Yes. Now who comes back from the 4th movie? Kirby Reed, everyone.
So this is where I feel like we might be a little divisive. How did you feel about this with her coming back?
I loved it. I was excited. I love Hayden Panettiere. I loved Kirby in the 4th one.
I agree. I love Hayden. I love Kirby. I loved her in the 4th one. She's pointless in part 6. She does nothing to the plot. If you take her character out, nothing changes.
Kind of, because they tricked us that one when we'll get to that in a little bit.
They used her as a
And
red
that was
herring.
crazy.
They used her
Yeah.
as a red herring, and that's honestly, it's kind of pointless. They could have wrote a different way to have another red herring. She didn't need to be done this way, and that's where I wanted to tie in. It felt like Sydney to me in part 5 because
Mm.
I feel like Sydney was only there in part 5 so that they could have the final shot of the 3 of them in part 5 standing next to each other going, we killed the ghost faces. And
Mhm.
now you're sitting at part 6 with Kirby coming back. She's in the FBI. The whole movie, she does nothing FBI related.
Mm-mm, she
Nothing.
doesn't. But I feel like she's also in it a lot more than Sydney was in Scream 5.
Oh, absolutely, which makes it
Yeah.
more egregious that she does nothing. I
Yeah.
love Hayden. I love that she was in this. Give her a role. Give her
Right.
something to do.
Something else. Yeah.
I don't know. And to me, like, it didn't really take away from the movie that much. I just
Right.
wanted something more from her. Like, there was no point for her to be in this movie other than fan service.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense. But they did. We talk about it now. How do we talk about that?
Go right ahead.
So they did set it up towards the end to make it seem like it was going to be Kirby. And so I feel like that was almost her point of being in the movie, was because it was crazy to think that like as soon as they set it up for her to make it look like she was Ghostface, it was like, oh my gosh, that would make so much sense. Like it just like all these different thoughts like are going like go through your head, and it's just I just feel like it adds that like that specific part added such a good like exciting like shock value type of thing.
The thing is, though, they could have had that and had her actually play a part in the movie before that, other than
Yeah,
it just leading to a red herring. So yeah, I do like the twist of, hey, maybe it's Kirby. We should all be weary of her, but not the way they did it. Okay, so we're kind of skipping the whole middle of the movie. Lots of people die. There is a fight with Ghostface and Gale Weathers, who came back, of course. And
Which
Gale
is
always
exciting.
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Gale always makes sense because she's a reporter. So she has a reason. Well, she's also a reporter and an author. So she always has a
I'm so excited. I'm so sorry. She always has.
That's why I said go ahead. Be excited. Talk.
This was her first time like talking on the phone with Ghostface throughout the whole franchise.
Which is crazy that it took 6
that's
movies.
Insane. And isn't that this is her first like solo chase scene with Ghostface? Yes. So good. So good. She did such a good job. That was such
and it was a battle too.
It was such a good scene. And isn't it funny to think about who that was? That we'll talk about in a little bit.
Yeah.
Anyways, but yeah, and so it was so much fun to get that for the very first time, that call with Gale and Ghostface, and then get her very first single solo chase scene.
So Gale is attacked. We've got all this going on. There's some random scenes, like we see we see the roommate Quinn get attacked through a window from across the way by this attractive man, and there's this dramatic escape from like 4 stories up over a ladder. Somebody falls to their death from that high up, and that was the second time that I went, holy hell, they are not holding back. They showed this, I don't remember the character's name, but her face bouncing off of a dumpster, landing on the ground, and the face is fucked.
Yeah, fucking brutal. This movie is brutal. And also, too, this is the first time that Ghostface ever uses something other than a knife.
Yep. So there's lots of those dramatic chase scenes, lots of stabbing. Like the people in this movie, they got stabbed.
When they stab, they're like, and then it's like,
yep,
like 17 more times. I'm like, bro, chill.
Yeah. So all this happens. The therapist that Sam went and saw, he gets killed in a pretty despicable way. There is a lot of red herring stuff it's a Scream movie, so you get all kinds of what if it's this sort of thing thrown at you, which is all great. And then, of course, you get to this part where Gale, doing her investigative reporting, discovers this Ghostface lair museum thing, and it is set up beautifully to show basically like these shrines to all of the ghost faces with their original masks, with DNA in the masks, with props that they were using at each of the killings. And it's set up in this very secure area, so you can tell they are setting this up to be a main point in the third act of this movie, and it pays off pretty damn well in the end. So, our climax, we have this trip on a subway that we are following our main characters go to this Ghostface lair. And as they are on this subway, which of course is full of people dressed up in costumes.
I think it's Halloween weekend.
Yeah, you see all kinds of really great horror references. You see references to the Babadook, to Ready or Not, with Samara Weaving's character even being shown there. The Babadook is a reference because Tara mentions that in part 5.
Mm-hmm.
You see Us. You see Friday the 13th. Yeah, you see everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then during these trips, of course, because it's a horror movie, our large group gets cut into 2. One group is together and the other group is together. There's one group that is 2 individuals, and that group, of course, gets targeted by Ghostface on the train in front of people. And because it's Halloween weekend, it's raucous. People don't know what's going on. They can't see. It's dark. It's on a subway.
There was also like stabbed. 4 or 5 Ghostface.
That's true.
On the train.
That's true.
There was not like everyone else just had one character. There was like 5 Ghostface throughout the train.
Yep. So one of them gets stabbed and left for dead. The other individual gets away, runs, and meets up with the rest of the group. And now they're in this Ghostface lair. And of course, as a dramatic Scream ending as we start to get the reveals. And the first killer is displayed to be the father of Quinn, who was the roommate of Samantha. And he was using Richie's phone to call Sam and make these threats because he's Richie's father.
Which
What do you
is
think of
so
that?
fun. It was so fun because it was Richie's father and then his two siblings, which was Quinn and then that other kid whose name I don't remember right now.
We had not revealed that yet. Go ahead. You can reveal it. So we find out it's Richie's father and that he was using Richie's phone to call Sam. What else happened?
We find out that Quinn and
Ethan is the other one. Ethan.
I forgot that name. I love that name. Quinn and Ethan are Richie's siblings, and the three of them are working together. And
important though, we thought Quinn was dead when this happened.
Yes.
Because we saw her get attacked.
Yes. We also haven't mentioned that Richie's dad was a cop. So he was like an investigator and he was working alongside of them this entire time. So it's like there's a point where you're kind of like, oh, maybe. But then when Quinn dies, it's like, that's his daughter, you know? Like he wouldn't kill his own daughter.
Right.
And then you find out that she's not dead because they tricked us.
Yeah. So we had Ethan, which the group was very suspicious of to begin with. We've got Quinn, who was dead, and now she's back. And now the three of them are attacking Gale and Kirby and Sam and Tara, all in this final thing. There's some epic fights. There's actual hand-to-hand combat. There's gunfire. There's stabbings. There's falling off of balconies. There's all kinds of stuff. Ending with a depending on how you look at it or count it, a fourth Ghostface, because Samantha puts on Billy Loomis's costume, her father's costume,
her dad's costume,
to end up making the final Ghostface kill in the movie. So here we are at the end. All of them are dead. All of the core four are revealed to be safe. Gale is safe, which sort of unrealistic. Some of these ones, they definitely should have died.
Oh yeah, Gale probably should have died, and so should have Chad.
Yep, absolutely.
One of the core four. But we also don't see Gale again after her attack.
Right.
They just mention that she's okay, so it is kind of sketchy especially because Dewey died, like for real, and then now it's like in part 5. And so you're like, oh my God, Gale dies. Like, this is crazy. But then it's like, oh, she's okay. But it just felt weird.
Right. And yeah, that's one of the things that felt a little off. But obviously, if they were going to kill her, they would have done it on screen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so we're done. Three ghost faces. They all died. They had this weird personal attachment to the last one because they were Richie's family. Overall, how do you feel about this one? Like on a classic 5-star scale?
I gave it a 4.5 on Letterboxd.
Not too bad. Not too bad.
Mm-hmm. I loved it. I don't know why I'm not giving it a 5 out of 5. I don't know. Maybe it's that weird ending with Gale. I don't know. I don't know what it is because did I give this one a 5 out of 5? Actually,
I gave Scream 6 a 4-star score. That's not to take away from it. For a 6th franchise film, for something that was awesome. Released, the first one was released 27 years ago. That is a great score.
Okay, yeah, I gave 4.5. That was right. I was like, what did I? Yeah. Yeah. It was, I loved every part of it. I don't think there was anything that I'm like, because even like the ending with Gale, it's not something that I'm complaining about. It was just kind of weird, but it didn't make or like break the movie or anything, you know, like it wasn't like I don't know how to explain it. It wasn't like a letdown or anything. It was just like, okay, Gale's fine. But it was just kind of weird, but it wasn't like, it didn't hurt the story at all.
Right. And it's a, like I said, it's kind of like a Scooby-Doo horror movie in all of these, that you're literally unmasking a character at the end of every film. It's very Scooby-Doo. In each one, there are plot points that if you really pay attention, or even if you just use common sense, they kind of ruin the actual plot for some of these. Like this one, it's kind of obvious that the cop is the dad of Richie from the last one, because how else would Richie's phone number still be calling Sam? It's because his family has his phone,
Right.
obviously. And then the other obvious thing, if his daughter was actually killed, he would never be allowed to be the investigator on that case.
On that same case, no.
It's impossible.
Yeah. But I do love, and, like, this is why that we when we mentioned earlier how it's following, like, the same, like, pattern as
Yes.
the, original trilogy, um, and I think that's so neat because we got to, like, it was just kind of fun to relive it because, the second one was, like, Billy Loomis's mom, and so this one is the same thing where it's Richie Kirsch's dad, and it's the same person who was Ghostface. Like, it's the same exact little, like, storyline, and I think that's
Yeah.
so fun. Because also too, it kind of makes you think like, obviously, like, duh. I don't know. But then it's also like, well, how would we have known that for sure? We didn't know they were gonna follow the same storyline. It's just so fun. I don't know.
Yeah, I completely agree. I was calling for something similar when we sat down. I was like, okay, obviously they're mirroring the original trilogy. The second one was Billy Loomis's mom. Is this going to be Billy Loomis's dad? You're going to find out something crazy. No, it's a little easier than that. As you go to the killer from the first
Mhm.
film, just like the first trilogy. So
Yeah.
yeah, I overall this movie was great. The violence being heightened, I think, is one of the better things to happen to this franchise in a while. I think the New York setting kind of revitalized it a little bit. It didn't feel samey
Yeah.
like the other ones did.
And also I feel like we're so used to everything being in Woodsboro. I like feel like I've never said that out loud before. But we're so used to it being there that it's also another thing too with like Sydney but not being there anymore. It's like, oh, is this gonna be weird? How are they gonna tie into this? Like
Right.
it was, but it didn't feel like that at all. It didn't feel like out of place. Like I feel like they answered any questions anyone would have had. Like it all made sense. It didn't feel random.
And that's why, to me, like, if Sydney was in this movie, it would have felt super
That would
weird.
feel random.
Why would she
Yeah.
be in New York? Why would she be around these teens that are
Hmm.
getting murdered? Why would she, like, there's a ghost face killing? I'm flying to New York. Like, what?
Right. No.
She's got a kid and
Yeah.
a husband.
That's
Doesn't
what
make
they
any
say
sense.
too. They're like, she's getting farther away from here.
Exactly. All right. Franchise ranking time. Do you have a list ready to go of your actual 1 through 6 where they rank, like best to worst?
I think I remember it off the top of my head.
All right. You want to start with the best or the worst?
The best.
All right. Let's start with the best. Hopefully we agree.
Yes.
My favorite is Scream, the very first one,
96.
96. This is a damn near perfect movie. It is beautifully directed. It is like perfectly cast. It has an incredibly groundbreaking opening for the time. Really good acting, and it sets the tone for this meta slasher series that I am in love with. So yeah, it's not just because it's the original, but I think it does everything the best compared to all of these. It is the right
Yeah.
level of funny, the right level of scary. It works on pretty much every level.
Yeah, and all the characters are interesting, like, you love every single character that's there, and, like, it's just, like you said, a perfect movie, chef's kiss. That one's a 5 on Letterbox for me.
Same. And it's all good deaths too. Some of these have some odd deaths, and the first one, they're all pretty great. What's your second favorite one?
Okay, so I'm remembering it, but I'm nervous, so I know someone has asked me recently, so I'm going back to check to make sure I'm quoting myself properly. Alright, 6.
6 is your second favorite.
Mhm.
We just heard a lot of good reasons for that. That's great.
I love it.
And obviously at a 4.5, that's pretty close to perfect for you.
Yeah, well, I feel like that one, and then the next one that I'm gonna name interchange a lot so far. I know I've only seen Scream 6 twice, but
Well, the funny thing, I have Scream 6 tied with another one for 3rd place. So I'll go to
okay.
my second one first. My second place is Scream 4. I think
Mhm,
it is a really great reboot for the franchise that makes everybody feel important to the story. It ages our characters properly. It makes you feel like everybody is vulnerable because of how they treat Dewey and Gale, especially. It makes you really care about Sydney again after a really rough entry into the franchise a decade
mhm.
prior. It is great set. It's got brand new characters that you actually care about. It
And it's all
is
somehow still, like, related to Sydney too.
yes, you got Sydney's cousin, Jill. That's a part of this. You've got everything going on. You got really great Ghostface reveals. Hayden.
And
Go ahead.
you got it. Hayden Panettiere, go.
Is great in this. She is a
Phenomenal.
wonderful character. Kirby is multifaceted in a way that a lot of these slasher films don't portray female characters. The fact that she's willing to fall in love with a nerd, willing to talk about horror movies, and also super smart in the movie. She kills it on every single level. And then of
Mhm.
course she's still beautiful and popular and everything. So
Right, and
she
she's,
is
like, a
like
big horror fan.
exactly.
Mhm.
She's fantastic. So
Yeah,
yeah,
she's
that's why it's
awesome.
number 2 for me.
Mhm. Yeah, that is the one that I am kinda stuck on. I don't know
So 4 and
between 2
6 are
and
pretty
3.
close for you?
Pretty close. Yeah, they're pretty much tied.
Nice. Well,
Yeah.
since we just talked about 4, anything negative that you wanna say about it? Anything that you don't love?
I don't think so.
The only thing I'll say about 4 is maybe the final act is a little slow in some parts, especially when they get to the final house. Like, there's some exposition that's a little drawn out that doesn't need to be, but, that's a very small complaint and a pretty great movie overall.
Who is the second Ghostface again? I know it's
It's,
Jill and Charlie or
Rory
Casey?
yeah, Rory Culkin. Let me pull it up. I don't remember his character's name.
Well, I don't know what words you just said.
Macaulay Culkin's brother, the film geek nerd with the
Yeah,
long hair.
right, okay, that's
Let's
right.
see. His name. Are you kidding? How is he not like listed under the top cast on IMDb? You have to go onto the second page to find out what his name is. Yeah, Charlie Walker. You were right.
Charlie!
So yeah, Charlie is the second Ghostface reveal on that, and
Okay, that's right.
he's the one with the long hair. He's the one that's been filming
Mhm,
and blah blah blah. So lots of great aspects of that. Completely agree. So 4 and 6 are about equal for you for second and
mhm,
third place,
mhm.
or like tied for second, basically.
Yeah.
So my tie for third place is 6. We just talked about it, and this is still really close. Like Scream is a 5, Scream 4 is like a 4.5, and for me, Scream 6 is a 4. So it's very close to great. But the one that it's tied with is Part 2. Um,
Mm,
Scream 6 and Scream 2 are both really well done for me. I love the opening to Scream 2. I
mhm.
think Jada Pinkett Smith is like it may be to me her scenes in that opening might be the best scene in the entire franchise with how she acts. It is a stupendously filmed shot in that movie theater. The killers at the end of this are unhinged in a way that we don't see from a lot of these killers. Timothy Oliphant and
I love
Billy
that
Loomis's
man.
mom are coming together to be the weirdest team ever.
The weirdest. And see, I also too feel like the next 2 for me are interchangeable, especially because I just watched I've seen Scream 2, obviously, but it had been 7 plus years maybe. So I
Right.
rewatched it again before seeing the 6th one, and I loved it so much more than I loved it the first time, or the first whatever times. Anyways, I loved it so much more than I did 7 years ago. So I feel like because my next one, so my was at number 4.
Yeah, you would be on number 4 now.
okay, yeah, it was gonna be Scream 5, but I feel like 2 and 5
Pretty
are neck
close
and
to the
neck.
same.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people don't like 5, but I loved 5.
So let's get on that.
Hot take.
The fifth one in the franchise for me is part five.
Mhm.
It's the fifth best. I'm not even going to say it's like the second worst. It's the fifth best. I liked it a lot. I think that the reveals at the end are good. I think the motives behind Ghostface is good. I think that the acting for some of the characters is pretty good. But this is another one where I got to mention, like, Tara and Sam, they were not nearly as good as they were in part six.
Yeah,
The other thing, I feel like Scream 5 has the worst pacing in the entire franchise, and that's because we get like 6 minutes of really great action, and I'm super excited, and then we pause for like 8 minutes for Tara to cry and us to have this really emotional
okay.
breakdown, which I get it. If it was real life and we were doing that, sure, people are going to need time to cope and process and all that. It's a Scream movie that you don't break up the monotony of death and happiness and exciting, action to come in and have Sam cry because she's stuck, caring for her sister or something. It's
Right.
it's a very oddly paced film in the franchise.
Yeah, that makes sense, and I feel like with Scream 5, so there's a difference between, like, a fan of Scream and then, like, being a fan of the franchise.
Yeah,
Because you can be like, "Oh, I'm a fan of Scream, I love Scream," but then only be talking about the very first movie. So I feel like there's a difference. So I feel like Scream 5 was a great movie for the fans of the original Scream,
same.
because it was very much like there was a lot of, like, same kind of jokes, the same kind of opening. Um, it was the same kind of storyline with it being the main character's boyfriend. Um, a lot of other just, like, really cool parallels, so I feel like that one was really, like, for the fans, not
Yeah.
for the fans of the franchise, but for the fans, if that makes any sense.
No, I fully agree. I think that it's
Mhm,
now that we know that they're mirroring the original trilogy, it makes perfect sense that that is for the
mhm,
fans of how it got to this point.
mhm.
And yeah, I think it really laid that home when we start seeing the fact that Dewey is killed, and that's probably the best part of this movie for me is because
Oh,
it's not even like a super I mean, it's poignant as a fan of the franchise. However, the main thing is it said, you know what? No holds barred. People are vulnerable and they
mhm,
can die. So obviously we agree.
mhm.
Bottom of the barrel for this franchise is Scream 3. Why is it the worst for you?
It's just it's still good, like, it's still fun, but I feel like that one's kind of random.
It's very random. When I
It's
mentioned
like the
Scooby Doo earlier, I think it took the Scooby Doo aspect and notched it up to a level that we never should have
like,
gone
over
to.
the top, yeah, because
It's
it was just
very
it was just
funny instead of
random.
balancing out the humor and the horror. It's like
Mhm.
80% comedy, 20% horror, and honestly, I can't think of a single scene in part 3 that's actually scary when every other entry in the franchise, there's some genuinely creepy or terrifying scenes.
Yeah, and it just especially out of all of them, it just feels like very like, I'm glad they didn't end it on that one.
Yes. And
I'm
then,
glad I know it took a long time, but I'm glad they got there, you know?
there's the other awkward part is that, well, I guess before I do that, I should mention this was the first one that wasn't written by Kevin Williamson. So he wrote the first two films, and this one is very obviously written by somebody different. You can tell through one thing that is very, very obvious, and that is the really crappy dialogue. Like, this movie is set in Hollywood, and Wes Craven is huge around Hollywood, made one of the best Hollywood meta films of all time with New Nightmare, and
Mhm.
yet Scream 3 has some of the worst Hollywood dialogue ever. There, you need to go call my agent. Like, nobody talks the way they talk in this film. It is crazy. But the really important thing to lay down here is the rewrite in the script. They had planned this to have two ghost faces. And so if you watch a lot of the way the movie actually ends doesn't make a whole lot of sense with what you saw prior because they reveal there was only one Ghostface. The script was written to be two Ghostfaces. They changed it in the middle of making the film, and so now some of this is nonsensical. You've got some of these things where the Ghostface basically had to teleport across the city to be able to kill multiple people at the same time. So it's rough.
Do we know who was supposed to be the other one?
Yes, the British student, not student. She's like oh gosh. 1 second.
That's
I
interesting. I don't think I knew that.
always
That's also
forget
too.
her
It's
name.
the only one where there's only the one Ghostface.
Correct. Emily Mortimer, who plays Angelina Tyler, was supposed to be the other
Mm.
Ghostface, and
And
she
that just feels
is.
random.
There's certain things in the movie that if you watch it knowing that, you're like, oh, okay, she's the only one that could have been here and done that. That makes perfect sense. But when they changed it, it lost all believability. And totally get it. I understand why they had to do some of that. Whatever. That being said, still a good movie. The opening with Liev Schreiber, great. Killing
Hmm.
him at his house, him running home on the phone. I'm gonna get there to help. Um, Absolutely great opening. The
Hmm.
rest of it, we lose a lot of nuance, unfortunately, and
Yeah.
I think they could have done a much better job with this.
Yeah.
That
I
being
agree.
said, I still like it. It's still a
I still
fun movie.
enjoyed it. Yes. How do you feel about the theory that Stu is still alive?
I think that it's ridiculous and people need to stop bringing it up.
Me too, but I also love it.
Like
I don't believe it. Like it's not a thing, but I love it. I love
the
the idea of
dramatic
it.
moment of him being revealed would be incredible, and I
It
love
would be
Matthew Lillard.
insane.
And I have an autographed Matthew Lillard Ghostface mask here in this room because I love him so much. However, I think it would be the most asinine dumb thing that they could do for this franchise.
I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm really not. It wouldn't make any sense. It would be silly goofy. They would truly just be doing it for the fans and not
Yeah,
for actual cool time. But how fun would that be?
yeah, I agree.
I feel like maybe not this
Supposedly,
late in the franchise. It probably wouldn't be as fun. But like in like the fourth one, that would have been really fun.
if it was
I
the
don't know how
third
it would have
one,
tied
which
in.
had a weak plot, you could have done it in the third one.
Hmm.
What was I going to say?
I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine. It was something completely unrelated to what we were talking about, and now I don't know. The reason that people are believing this is because Matthew Lillard was dating, was it Nev Campbell during the
Hmm.
second one? And so,
Hmm.
actually, in part two, he is in the background of one of the shots. He's blurry. You can't really notice it's him unless you're looking for it, but it's very obviously him when you're looking for it. So that's why,
Right.
like, people are, oh, Stu's alive. Look, he's in part two. No, not really.
It's just an
But
extra.
fun fact, he actually had a cameo in part five, I think it was, not showing on screen, but talking on the phone to somebody.
Oh,
He's a voice cameo in it. Um,
interesting.
yeah, Matthew Lillard is one of the greatest people on the planet.
Phenomenal. Hmm.
Love
I would like to give him a hug. I hope he had a good day today.
it. Me too. Speaking of good days, it was a good day when it seems like all signs are pointing to them doing a Scream 7. No
Oh,
surprise with
it's
them.
already it's already like set up, like given the green light.
Yeah. No
Yeah.
surprise with how much money they made on part 6. It's another huge
Broke records, didn't it?
well,
Sorry.
I'm not I don't know about that. I think it was expected that it might. I don't know that it
So
did,
sorry,
but
broke records for the franchise.
I think it's the fifth in the franchise to hit 100 million, which is
Mm,
fantastic for a horror
that's insane.
franchise. That's pretty damn good. Only one of them didn't.
Yeah.
I think that it has chance to do very well in part 7. Um
Especially also too, they got. I'm not saying that Scream Six doesn't. The whole franchise deserves this kind of attention, right? But they got so lucky with Wednesday getting so popular.
yes. Absolutely, yes. And
Yeah.
then all of that positive buzz went right into Scream 6. Jenna
Hmm.
Ortega's now like her and Mia Goth are
Oh my
owning
gosh.
horror right now.
Let's go.
I did want to say one more thing. Scream 6 theater experience, lots of fun. I could tell lots
I
of
loved
people
it.
there were actually fans of the franchise and
Mhm.
they were enjoying it. Not people like shouting, "He's behind the door," or anything like that, which
Right,
I've
or, like,
definitely had before.
teenagers that are, like, throwing popcorn and, like, making jokes and stuff the whole time. Yeah, I agree. It was very especially because I saw it the night before, so I feel like you have to be a pretty good fan. But also too, when I saw it the second time, I was sitting and I saw a girl sitting next to me by herself, and there were so many parts where I think it was her, like, second time seeing it too because we were like like like, when Kirby came on, I was like, "Yes," and she was like, "Yes," and I was all you know? So it was just fun. I feel like you said, like, everyone took it pretty seriously, like, it wasn't even, like, after I saw opening night or the whatever on Thursday, when I was walking out, someone had stopped me and was like, "Did you like it? Like, what did you think?" And so it was like everyone was just genuinely excited about it, which felt really nice, really fun. Theater
I also
experience, 10 out of
I
10.
for the theaters, I will throw out it's really cool that both AMC and Regal are embracing Scream and doing really
Mhm.
cool things with merch and everything. I think Regal had the popcorn bucket that was sold out immediately and then going for like $120 on eBay. So they said, F you to the scalpers, we're going to sell it online. And now you could have bought it online. I think the window's closed now, but they had that. They had cups that you could buy. My AMC, I got this really wonderful lenticular cup, and Courtney's upset.
Because I
It's
asked, I said, "Do you guys have the souvenir cups?"
it
And they were
is
out.
surprisingly well made, and then on top of it,
It's so beautiful.
we've got a Ghostface, and he pops off, so I can just put him up in the movie room on display.
Yeah, whatever, Ryan.
Loved it. Oh, and
I'm gonna steal that next time I visit.
the other thing I was going to ask: did you see it in 3D or did you see it in 2D?
Oh, regular. Is that 2D?
Yes.
Regular.
So
My
I
mom.
I oddly didn't have a choice. We only had one showtime that we could make it to. It was just a rare happenstance because we actually went with KB,
Parents. Oh, yes.
and we're parents, yes. So we had to go to a 3D showing, and it was one of those movies that wasn't shot in 3D, so it wasn't like Friday the 13th 3 in 3D where the spears like coming at the screen or anything like that. But they did some things to make it just like textured, and it really
Mhm.
added something to this that was actually really fun. I'm glad that I saw it like that in the theater. I'm also glad that I can see it in 2D at home and not worry about glasses or 3D and just watch it again and it'll look magnificent. But it was actually pretty fun to see it in 3D.
That's awesome.
All
I
right.
hate 3D, but I'm so happy for you.
Does it give you headaches?
Yeah, it makes me dizzy,
Yeah.
but I'm so happy you enjoyed it, you know?
Well, and the crazy thing, I think that's the first thing I've seen in 3D in like
A long
9
time.
years. Yeah.
I think the last thing I saw in 3D was the Avatar that came out in, like, 2009, 2010, whatever year that was.
Yeah. I get it. All right. Anything else on Scream?
It's fantastic. Watch it.
Is this your favorite franchise in horror or is Nightmare on Elm
Yes.
Street higher?
No, it's this as a whole franchise because it's like Nightmare on Elm Street, like, it's so inconsistent. Like, I feel like the only other one I genuinely enjoy and I haven't gone through and watched I think I've only seen the first 6. I don't think I've seen the last. I know. I've seen, like, the Freddy vs. Jason stuff, but I don't think I've seen isn't there, like, 8 Nightmare on Elm Streets?
There are
Don't come at
8
me, don't look at my tattoo.
There are 8, including Freddy versus Jason, and then there's the remake, so there's 9 total.
Okay, so then I think
Have you
maybe just the
seen New
last
Nightmare?
one. Yes.
Okay,
I think it's just the last one then, like, the of before Freddy vs. Jason.
that's New
Anyways, lo no, then the one before that.
Nightmare.
Oh, anyways, I've seen New Nightmare. This shows that because I can't even name all of them. I just feel like Scream is more consistent. Like, I don't know. You're asking too many questions, Ryan.
I think for me, the only franchise that comes close to me enjoying it as much as Scream,
Saw.
yeah, Yeah, simply.
Best Sister Award.
And the thing I have to admit though is Saw is drastically inconsistent compared to this one.
Yeah.
Some of the Saw films are god awful, and I
Mhm.
still enjoy them, and I don't know why. I'm sorry, don't question me.
No,
Um,
it's fine.
yeah,
They're fun movies.
I love puzzles, and that's the entire franchise is a puzzle.
Yes, that is true. Like quite literally.
All right. Thanks for hanging out with me and talking about this. This has been fun,
Literally anytime. Um,
except for the last like 3 weeks.
listen.
or an hour before we recorded this.
Okay, so maybe not literally anytime. Whenever it works.
I love Scream, but more importantly, I love my sister, and I'm
I
glad
was
that you're
gonna
here.
say, I love you.
Thanks for watching, everybody, and Courtney and I are going to be doing more of this, so watch out for that one. See you next time.